What a brilliant question for a Saturday morning, just after I went to see the sunrise. Please tell us how to deal with divorce. I'm going to tell it to you straight. Divorce is part of marriage. I'm going to say it again. Divorce is part of marriage. When your marriage, it's around the 5 to 7 year mark, after the honeymoon phase and all lekker goedetjies come to an end, you start to experience things. Whether it is financial difficulty, emotional difficulties, infidelity, cheating, inadequacy in provision, or whatever, divorce is the thing that rears its ugly head for married people. Only married people can get divorced, right? But before you consider this option of divorce, please exhaust every effort and every cent in the direction of salvaging and fixing your union, if you can. If it is pertaining to emotional stuff, go see a psychologist, go see a marriage counselor. As a man, go see your psychologist about your emotional baggage. As a woman, go see your psychologist separately from your husband about your emotional damage and baggage. Because what people tend to do is they bring baggage from outside of their marriage, get married, and then dump that baggage on each other, which is not fair and not right at all. If it's a physical or health-related issue that affects things like intimacy, remember intimacy and the lack thereof, or infidelity in marriages is one of the main reasons in today's society that marriages are failing. And if you have a medical-related issue or a psychological-related issue pertaining to intimacy, go see a doctor, go see a gynecologist, exhaust every option that you possibly can to ensure that you fix what is broken so that it can aid in the resolution of your problems. If your problem is finance, go speak to a finance manager, go speak to whoever. If the problem is spiritual, go speak to your pastor, your imam, your sheikh. Go speak to the right people and go exhaust every possible avenue that you possibly can to resolve whatever issues you have, to reconcile with them, and then flourish together as a couple. But if you have exhausted all of those options, you went to see the doctor, the imam, the pastor, the finance manager, the trauma counselor, the marriage counselor, the psychologist, and you still cannot fix things because of things like people falling out of love, wanting different things in life, outgrowing each other, or learning to have to love each other to part ways because being together is no longer conducive for their growth or mental stability or emotional well-being, then you can do it in a great and amicable and non-toxic way. It's obviously a different story if there was abuse of any kind, whether that is sexual abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, neglect, or whatever. That's completely different, and that is cause for immediate grounds of termination of a marriage, right? But in any of the other cases, one thing that I've had to learn as a divorced individual is how to look at me. It's easier to pass the blame and say, our marriage declined because of you and what you did. Unless the person have cheated or whatever, right? But even if they did, ask yourself, what did you contribute to the reason why your marriage fall apart? Accountability on your own behalf brings you peace because you need to be able to reconcile with the fact that you could have done better if you could have, right? Look at what you contributed rather than point a finger at your ex-spouse or your spouse before you get divorced. Because while everyone has a reason to feel the way that they feel, they also have a contribution. And that's one thing that I've had to learn. Now, post-divorce, there's a lot of things. I've experienced extreme bouts of loneliness. Another thing that I had to do was to mourn my marriage. I had to sit there and chunk and cry and think about the memories and go through the pictures and the snot and I did it. You have to mourn your marriage, right? And then the third thing is to be cognizant of who you are and the way forward for you. Some people go through a hoe phase. Some people go through excessive drinking or partying or whatever. Everything in moderation. You need to learn how to work on problem solving and building yourself. Now, for a lot of men post-divorce, you lose everything or half of everything that you've owned, right? So you have to start your life all over again with nothing. And for some women too. You know, some women quit their jobs and stuff to look after the kids and whatever, and the man is a sole income provider and there he leaves her and she's got nothing left. What you need to do is work on you. Focus on you. Yes, you may have children and this and that and the other thing, but you can only be what you need to be for everybody else that relies on you if you look after yourself. I have started to do more things that fulfill me as a person, not at the expense of my responsibilities. I don't go party and this and that and spend money on myself to do things and then I can't pay my latest child maintenance and support. That's just stupid. But I have been taking better care of myself. I have a skincare routine. I am grooming and shaving and getting haircuts more frequently than I ever have. I do little things that make me feel better about myself. Because when I was married, I did everything in the endeavor of making sure that everyone else was okay. And I put myself dead last, and that was toxic. And now I'm learning to give back to myself and be a bitchy selfish. Also, there are very, very high highs and very, very low lows when you get divorced. Sometimes you feel really good and very confident and you go out there and you're great. And then there's times where you just crash and then you feel super alone and whatever. The one thing that you need to understand is you were in a union with someone for a long time. And you were always codependent and you had someone to come home to or whatever. When you are divorced, you come home to an empty space. You are all alone. And that's a lot. Because now you are confined in the same four walls with yourself, your thoughts, and the dwelling emotions. My advice is take it as it comes and deal with it as it must. Get a therapist. Learn how to heal. Learn how to fulfill yourself. Learn how to love yourself. Healing is the most important part, and you can't rush that process. But always look inwards. Look at you. Look at what your contributions were. And to the best of your ability, try and make it amicable. Try and respect the person that you have parted ways with and say, look, we didn't work out in the capacity of spouses, but we can definitely still work on being friends, especially if there are children involved. And be respectful and amicable to the best of your ability and non-toxic to the best of your ability. And always put your best foot forward towards your ex-spouse because they were there with you. There was a time you were deeply in love with one another. You don't have to lose your respect for someone just because that relationship dynamic no longer is in existence or didn't work out. Try your best to be kind. Try your best even when they are being cuck. People have their moments. People are all human beings, right? So try your best to be understanding, try your best to be respectful, to be amicable, and to treat that person with kindness and dignity. You don't have to be in the same spaces all the time, but when you do, and eventually you do, especially if you have kids, you're going to have to realize that you will be in each other's lives for the rest of your lives, whether you move on or not, whether you remarry or not. Why must that interactions with that person have to be toxic and ugly and nasty and bad? Doesn't have to be, okay? Nobody's saying go be friends and hang out or whatever, but make inroads into repairing a respectful relationship dynamic with that person for your sake, for your peace of mind. And when you can achieve that as an individual, and they can achieve that as an individual, and you can come together, your children will find peace too. And you don't want to use your children as emotional warfare against one another or weapons to fight with one another. You don't want to make them the collateral damage, okay, in the war that is between you and your relationship dynamic. That's as far as my advice goes. Learn to love yourself, learn to heal, learn to be alone, mourn your marriage, cry, deal with it how you need to deal with it. But focus on healing and take it one day at a time. Every day you wake up, you just try to be a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. Accountability is a big thing. Look inwards, try to be accountable for you and your contributions, and try to find peace and respect as far and as best as possible. There's no need for toxic divorces. There's no need for unhealthy coping mechanisms. Do what you gotta do. If you got a whole phase, go do it. Just don't disrespect anybody in that process. Respect, amicable, consensual, clean, fun. Do what you gotta do. Live your life. Do what you feel is best for you. But don't shy away from what your responsibilities are and never try to hurt anybody in the process, whether they are part of your life or no longer part of your life. That's how I would recommend that you deal with divorce. I hope that is a good or valid response for you.